Hi guys, and welcome back to Making Finances Sexy. My name is Rose Short, aka the Red Queen. I'm a realtor here in the Phoenix Valley. I am also a financial consultant and CEO of Chronica Luxury. Come down the rabbit hole with me. My mission is to help people live their dream lives and fire their boss. And with me, of course, is the wonderful Miss Jessica Lay.
Hey guys, you know me, Jessica Lay, your Rent Rayvon realtor and certified instructor with the company 101 Financial right here in our Valley of the Sun, making it my mission to assist you in moving out of renting into home ownership, no matter your situation. I'm ready to be your personal finance coach and first-time home buyer specialist.
Woo woo.
Yeah.
All right, guys, and today Miss Jess is going to learn us or educate us on better budgeting and credit building, which is two of the four fundamentals of financial education and financial, what's the word I'm looking for?
Literacy, education.
Literacy, yes, that you teach in your 101 Financial. So let's get into it. Tell us all about it.
Yeah. So better budgeting and credit building. A lot of people don't think that's sexy, but I think having a solid financial foundation is extremely sexy because there's just so many doors and opportunities that can open when we are financially literate and actually paying attention to our personal finances. So I'm excited to get into the first two fundamentals of finances that my course teaches, and that is our better budgeting and credit building. So you're familiar with budgeting, right, Rose?
Very, yes. My dad was very good at budgeting and taught me at a young age how to do it, and it's come in quite handy with building my online businesses and things like that. But I know a lot of people don't even know how to start budgeting.
Yeah. So I like to get into like making sure people have an understanding of what budgeting is and why it's important. So a budget is a way to balance income and expenses and our financial goals for a specific length of time. In other words, it's like an estimate of how much money you'll make and spend over a certain period of time, such as over a month or a year, or how we coach our students is we create a weekly budget. And we know like weeks fluctuate. Like some weeks you're going to be spending way more because things happen or you need to go grocery shopping that week, whatever. And other weeks you'll spend less. So if we can create like we have our students track their spending each week and kind of get an average number of what they spend, and if they can stay within that budget, we hope that they are spending less than they're making. So their income needs to be more than what they're spending, obviously, because that brings in cash flow. And we always want a positive cash flow, right?
Yeah. And the best thing about doing it that way is there's a lot of things like most people are like, oh, a latte here and there doesn't really add up. But then once you actually see it on paper and like you see how much money you're spending for it, then it becomes real and you realize how quickly those little expenses add up.
Absolutely. And budgeting isn't supposed to be about depriving yourself. It's actually just taking control of your money. Making a budget, we don't want our students to feel like they're under a punishment, but remember that it's a plan for all their money, and that includes money for the fun stuff too, like frappes or music festivals, which I like to spend my money on.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not saying that like you're going to cut it out completely, right? But if you are needing to save money for a house or something like that, and you're trying to figure out where you can afford to make some cuts, that's when you can dial it down and be like, okay, well, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, treat yourself to a frap, but maybe Tuesday, Thursday, you make your own coffee.
Yeah, exactly. And just when they're aware of it and see like how that one coffee a day can be almost $100 per week, it's a lot and kind of freaks you out to a point where you want to cut it down and make a little bit of changes.
Yeah.
I like budgeting because it benefits everyone. It's not just for people who struggle financially. It actually encourages you to put your money to work in the best way possible and can help you identify like what's soaking up all your cash. If it is that coffee, or if you're paying for a subscription that you barely use. Some of my students, I see they have Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, whatever, and they're in Netflix all the time, or YouTube Premium only all the time. So seeing things that you can cut out can really help if you're planning to start budgeting.
Yeah, that's why Rocket Money and a couple of those apps are so popular right now, is because they actually find those, once you link your bank account, it goes through and finds all of them. And for a lot of people, it's finding subscriptions they didn't even remember because they don't ever look at their bank statement to know that it was there. And just getting those canceled. Like, I used it not too long ago and it found a subscription charge for something that I don't even use.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to get it canceled and actually got some of it refunded because they were like, yeah, this isn't even your email address. Like, we're not sure why this card is there.
Yeah.
So, but I would have never known because it was on, the statement that it was on, was one I never look at. So it worked out pretty well. So even if you are on top of it, like these apps and whatnot can be really beneficial.
Exactly. Sometimes too, I've noticed my iPhone, I accidentally, do a free trial of something, forget about it, and then it auto charges whatever card is connected to your wallet. And then if you're not paying attention, you could be losing out. Typically not very expensive, these subscriptions. They could be $5 to $20, a month. But again, like if you already are living paycheck to paycheck or are struggling a little bit, then that $5 to $20 could really make a difference and really help push you financially and achieve a little bit more of what you want to achieve. Um, and I think the budget is a stepping stone for our financial goals because it helps you understand your relationship with money. So you typically begin to spot patterns, and then you can identify then where to make the adjustments. Another reason budgeting is a stepping stone is it helps us save for the future. Budgeting helps us build our emergency funds or save for goals, like you said, buying a house or whatever they want to do.
And it's so important to learn. There's a statistic I read recently that said 40% of all relationships end because of arguments over money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either one person's good with money and the other person's spending it all, or you both suck with money and then you're both blaming each other for being broke. And so it's super important that you as an individual understand how to budget, but also if your significant other is involved, that they either trust you with what you're doing with the budget or they're involved with it as well. Because especially in a relationship, if you're trying to improve your financial situation, it's going to take both people. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be stressful. Yeah. But it's so important. So, if you can learn it individually first, it's fantastic. But again, like if you're going to start budgeting and you're in a relationship where, money is shared, you got to just know that it's got to be a conversation with both of you.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you are in a relationship, to have your own checking accounts and actually put in the work yourselves, because nobody's financial situation is the same. And also, if one partner is a little bit more frugal than the other, like isn't buying the Starbucks every week and things like that, there is a lot of room for argumentation, because I've noticed in some couples that do share bank accounts, they spring up like, you're the one spending all the money, like it's not me, and it's just can get really ugly pretty fast, and nobody wants to just be arguing about their money. That's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah. My parents argued about money all the time. Well, not really in front of us, but like I said, my dad is very good with money, very good at budgeting, very stickler to it. Mm-hmm. And my mother just was not. And she knows this. I'm not saying anything she doesn't know. She's gotten a lot better at it as she's gotten older. I will give her that. But it was a constant stress, and there were a lot of comments made about it after they separated. So I've seen it in real life. It's it's no fun, and you don't want something as stupid. I mean, you need it, but it is kind of stupid. Something as stupid as money to be what drives you apart.
Right. Yeah, and and money can be used for really good things. And if you just be patient with it, patient with yourself and your partner, you can, and focusing on your goals, then we can really benefit from just taking the time to learn to budget and build our credit up.
Yeah. And even if you're going into it without like a set goal, like come up with a goal, come up with a number, come up with something, like something that's gonna, if you're working out and you have a goal weight or whatever it is you're going for, like you're more likely to stick with it. And it's the same with budgeting.
Yeah, exactly. Just paying off one debt or saving up $5,000, whatever. It's just really, it feels really good once you actually make it happen, especially for people who don't believe it is possible and have been struggling financially for
Yeah.
some time now. Um, but again, and this literally is no risk. We're not putting money into the stock market or anything. It's just laying out your financial picture and letting somebody, or doing it yourself, just creating an itemized list and plan for whatever you're trying to achieve.
Yep. Just making sure you're living within your means.
Mm-hmm. Again, I think about a budget as a stepping stone. The next step would be getting out or staying out of debt. Mapping out expenses in advance reduces the risk of like overspending, and it can help our students pay off the debt they already have. So, becoming more financially literate, we can use tools that banks have to offer, which a lot of people don't know about, or also read the fine print. We just sign the dotted line, open up the checking account, and that's it.
Yep.
So doing that, and then it also relieves a lot of stress. Budgeting isn't a cure-all, but it can really help you to manage financial decisions and prepare for challenges that come up: flat tires, medical bills, all the fun stuff that this human experience has to offer us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I love how like your trip, you're smart with your money. So car breaking down, it was stressful, but just that peace of mind of you didn't have to think, how am I going to pay for this bill, this car repair
Yeah.
bill? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you too with your car wreck. Like,
Mhm.
very stressful situation. I mean, yours is far worse than mine, I would say, just because you were definitely without longer than I was. But same thing, like, yeah, it was stressful because it depleted the emergency fund, but like you had that fund, whereas a lot of people wouldn't have. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, you can plan for everything, but plan that life is going to throw you curveballs.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends too that also like to travel for these music festivals and things, but they sometimes get back home and they're like, oh shit, like I have no money left after this. And they're
Yep.
back to work depressed because you're like back to work immediately after a trip and just grinding, grinding, grinding to pay your bills. And then also wanting to plan more trips. And that can just unfortunately cause some struggles for some people. Oh, look at the puppy.
Just eating my pants. I was like, all right, say hi.
So cute.
But you're talking about budgeting for expenses. That was an expense we budgeted for.
I'm sure all your doggies are.
Oh yeah, true.
Mm-hmm. Always
Uh,
got a budget for them and their food and things like that. Still feed ourselves.
exactly. Yeah. Well, it's like that staycation we went on too a while ago now. Did a little staycation. It was one of those scenes of like, okay, we're gonna get this much cash out, and this is what we're spending, and that's it. And for exactly that reason, so that we didn't go home and go, oh crap, like I overspent when I had too many drinks or whatever it may be, right? So
Yeah, exactly. I love planning my trips now, especially with the 101 financial art projections. I'm able to literally plan out and budget all of my trips. And typically, I end up spending less than my budget because I'm conscious of it, and it kind of gets me excited when I don't go over my budget because there's more money in my pocket and I can do more things with. I can reinvest into my business. I could actually invest it into one of my retirement accounts or whatever and just start making little moves with that residual monies from budgeting and figuring out a plan.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Um, that's about it with budgeting. I wanted to get into our credit building.
Yes, so let's talk about credit.
Yeah. Credit is, un- I don't want to say unfortunately, but sometimes feels unfortunate because we need it and we kind of rely on it a lot. And the credit score not only determines what home loans we can get and at what interest rate, but it has to do when we are applying for any lines of credit and credit cards. Sometimes even jobs require a credit check, or also renting, they check your credit. Just
Yeah,
a
there's been a
lot of
huge
aspects.
rise of that in the last decade,
Yeah.
and it's scary. I mean, one of the reasons I bought my house was because my significant other couldn't qualify because of his credit, and it's insane that the system is now that much against you if you don't have credit, and you're almost better off having bad credit than no credit anymore. And it used to be the other way around. So it's an interesting shift. And as much as we hate it, like it's the truth of living in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Not that credit doesn't exist outside of the United States, but it's heavily emphasized here.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy to me that some people don't even pay attention to their credit scores, or they decide to not get credit cards or even try to build their credit um, because of how necessary it is here in the US. And I think it would be a little bit wiser to actually set some time aside to learn it and start small, like we always say, just baby steps.
Yeah. Well, it's such a catch 22 for a lot of people because you can't get approved for a credit card if you don't have credit. But the whole reason you're trying to get a credit card is so you can build your credit. And so I think a lot of people who don't have credit at this point, if they're in their 20s or 30s, is because they don't really know how to go about getting that first initial history, right? Because a lot of your score is based on your oldest accounts.
Yeah.
And my oldest credit account, I think, is 8 years old, and that shows poorly. It pops up as poor versus good or great on the spectrum of things. Even though I've got good credit, it'd be better if I'd started when I was like 18.
Yeah, a trick that we like to tell our students that have absolutely no credit is if they know somebody and this person loves them enough, they can add them as an authorized user to their credit card and not give them a credit card to use, but literally just tacking your name and information onto the person with good credit can help elevate their score. And then we give it a couple months, have them apply for whichever credit card they choose. Like if they want flight miles or cash back, whatever type of benefits that come with the credit card that speaks to them, have them apply, and typically they get approved pretty easily after that.
Yeah, that's smart.
If they don't know anybody, we also like to utilize the lines of credit, and we help our students if they can't get approved for the line of credit, they have what's called a secured line. And that's just using budgeting and creating a savings plan to help them save up we recommend 5,000. That's a usable amount to leverage and use this secured line of credit. But yeah, there's lots of tricks out there that we like to teach our students to get them started.
Yeah, that's how I started. I had a shared secured loan, is what they called it. And it was, I had a $2,000, I think, savings account with a credit union. And I took out a loan for the $2,000. And, I still paid it off, but it's called shared secured because then if you default on the payment, your money's already in their bank and they just take it to pay it off.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
So
funny because you're using your money and borrowing it. It's
yeah,
all confusing, but it works.
yeah, exactly.
It gets your credit started, and that's sexy.
That is sexy. It's very sexy.
So our credit scores, they're graded kind of funky. We have a lot of people, they're kind of afraid to apply for new credit, but honestly, that's a pretty low percentage of your credit score grade. It's about 10%, I believe, when you apply for new credit, that it lowers your score a bit. The two big things is your payment history. It's about 35% of your score, and then also utilizing about 30% of your credit limit. You want to try to stay 30% or less of your entire limit. That can help or raise your score. If
Yeah.
not, but payment history is the big thing. Don't miss.
No late payments.
That dings your score, and it can go down like sometimes 100 points. We've seen it.
Yeah, it's no joke.
Yeah. And then that 30% usable amount, say you have a 10,000 credit card, you want to stay between 3 and 5,000 used of that card. If you're really up close to that 10,000 limit, or of course over it, that'll drop your score significantly.
Yeah, and I think that's where people get in trouble is they get a credit card that has a high limit and they go, "Oh, I can max this out," and that is the last thing you should do.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, no matter what the limit is on it, you should only use what you could pay back. And oftentimes when you got good history, like your credit card limit is going to get raised by the bank, right? So like I had a card that started at I think 500 or 1,000, and it's now in the 5 digits of the limit is. But that doesn't mean go out and spend it. It just means, you know what, the more they raise your limit, the more your usage goes down, the better your credit looks. So don't fall into the trap of, oh, well, now I can put these bigger purchases on here.
Yeah.
Just stick with what you can afford.
Yeah, and that's funny because the banks don't tell us this. So people get those 10,000 credit limits. They're all the way up at $9.99 to their limit because they think they can, and the banks want us to do this.
Especially if you're past your year free APR or anything like that. That APR is where they make their moolah.
Exactly. So now you're just paying the bank if you're paying the minimum and being charged interest, and it sucks. It feels like you're being robbed by your own bank sometimes.
Because we are.
Like that was a good point about not using the full usable amount, because it's the same when you get that pre-qualification. You get approved for a $450,000 home loan. We recommend our clients to not use that whole 450,000. Why? Why?
In case something happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was house hunting. I didn't even look at my prequal. I had no idea what I was prequal for. I knew what I wanted to pay. And that's what I told my realtor. I was like, this is how much my monthly payment needs to be, or this is how much, my total price needs to be. And thankfully I did that because I found out later that my prequal was about double the house that I bought. The problem was that would have made my mortgage more than double because I didn't put down 20%. I put down 3.5%. And 2 months after I bought, my job canned me. So thankfully I had funds. I had a 401k that I could close out and everything like that. But had I gone and went, oh, well, my pre-qual says this, so that's the house I'm going to get, I probably would have lost my house.
Yeah, exactly.
Either had to have sold or gone into foreclosure.
And that happens so often to people. They get approved and they use the whole thing, and shit, life happens all the time. Like things out of our
Mm-hmm.
control most times. It happens around us. And
Yeah.
again,
Oh,
just
the other reason too is for us is the market we're in, right? So a lot of times we tell our clients like, we're still seeing people coming in with 20, 30,000 over appraisal, put in appraisal buffers and whatnot. So looking lower than your pre-qual can be the difference between getting the house and not getting the house.
yeah, yeah, that definitely helps depending in the market that you're in. And it is still like kind of a seller's, it seems, in my opinion.
It's still a seller's market.
Yeah, and people are still,
Here in Phoenix anyway, because again, supply and demand.
yep, absolutely.
Oh.
So once you start building credit, it's important to monitor your credit score and progress regularly. There's a lot of free sites that make it easy to do this. I like to use the Experian app. It's again free and you make a account. You can make an account really quick and have it on your phone and check it whenever you want. There's also Credit Karma and Credit Sesame. I've used those or have had my students use those. They're all completely fine. But if you don't have a free app or website and don't know how to check your credit score, I suggest you do that. That's a good first step just to get familiar and check out your score and start putting in.
Yeah. Some banks now have it. They have I know Chase does. They have a my credit journey thing, and it's not, perfect, obviously, but it's a good ballpark. I would say if you are obsessive, maybe don't put the app on your phone. A lot of them you can set it up to where it sends you like a monthly update. And if you know that you're going to be that person checking it 80 times a day, maybe go that route. And the only reason I say that is because it's one thing to monitor it and to pay attention to it. But if you go down the rabbit hole of obsessively checking it nonstop and then getting frustrated when you don't see instant changes when you pay stuff off, you're more likely to get frustrated with the whole process and completely fall off and actually damage your credit more because you're not seeing the instant result. And it's not going to be an instant change. It takes time for stuff to come off of your credit after it's hit it. If you apply for a mortgage or anything like that, you're going to get a number of hits to your credit. Inquiries is what they're called. Or if you're buying a car, same thing. And it takes a while for those inquiries to fall off. There's soft hits to your credit and hard hits to your credit. The soft hits don't show, the hard hits do. And unfortunately, that's most of the credit lines and whatnot. So some of the stuff, it just takes time for it to disappear. That's all there is to it. And you can't rush it. So no matter how many bills you're trying to pay off real fast, it's not going to change the credit if what's hitting it is those hard hits. So monitor it, yes, just don't become obsessive.
No, definitely not. The way credit scores are scored is so weird, like the calculations, and it's constantly changing. Like all our credit scores will go up, 5, 7 points, and they'll go down 3, 5, 7 points, like almost weekly or daily. It's constantly shifting. It again depends on your financial history or what you have going on, what types of loans you have going on, when you pay something off, but then when you use credit again, like it's always going to fluctuate.
And how they're reporting to all three different entities that record your score. I mean, there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yep, there are 3 credit bureaus. That's a good point to bring up.
Everything reports differently.
Yeah. Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian are our 3 credit bureaus. Experian is a really good one for like mortgages. I've noticed that most banks go off of that and you're applying for a loan. But yeah, that was a good point about not obsessing over it. You shouldn't compulsively obsess over your personal finances anyways. I don't think anyone would like to sometimes, but it is possible. But I guess another good point with having a good credit score is you will get the best options for loans and credit lines and credit cards, at least you won't be super like attacked by interest rates and things because you're a low risk consumer. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you got really good credit, you can do some pretty awesome things. A friend of mine who is in the online marketing space, he has amazing credit, and his whole thing is boring passive income, right? Like he hates high ticket gurus. He thinks they're all just idiots or jerks, and there's a lot of them that are. Um, and he accidentally added $100,000 in revenue to his business this year. And how he did that is he rents out his car. And he started with one, and now I think he's up to three. And because he's got really good credit, he doesn't even have to put money down to buy more cars. So I think he's adding a fourth car this month. And what he does is gets the loan, uses the profit from renting out his car to pay the insurance, the car note, all that kind of stuff. And he's still making a profit. So his credit score is still just improving because he's making regular payments, sometimes double payments to all these vehicles. And it's making him, rich essentially.
No, that's the
And
power of it.
yeah, it's the power of good credit. His credit's over like 800. It's good. And of course, every time he gets a car loan, it goes down a little bit, right? But it doesn't take long for it to get built back up.
Yeah, that's what got me excited into 101 Financial, because a lot of other instructors that are ahead of me in this time of financial education, we learned to leverage the bank and use HELOCs, home equity lines of credit, to we use our income to pay down these HELOCs and then reinvest by picking up another property. And then it's kind of like uh just a nice, I don't want to say a domino effect.
It's a way to build passive income,
Yeah, a way to build
essentially,
passive income. But the
and
only way you're
generational
gonna,
wealth.
yeah, the only way you're gonna get there is starting with the basics.
Yeah.
Yeah, which a lot of people
It
are
sucks, but it's true.
and a lot of people are scared to do it sometimes, but what do you have to lose? Or are you just want to stay where you are
I
forever?
think for part of them, it's just that they're not educated. And I think like my flatmate has no desire to have credit. And a lot of his thing is because he knows how quickly he could go down the rabbit hole of destroying his credit.
Yeah.
Because he is that kind of person. Like he's terrible with money.
I know a few people
And he
like
knows
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for some people it's a self-awareness thing of knowing that if they don't have somebody else to kind of hold them accountable or keep an eye on it, they could easily make it negative very quickly. Some people, I helped a client buy a house and they had a medical condition where they couldn't work. And so everything they had was cash because they had no reason to have a bank account. There's reasons for it. The nice thing is, and a lot of people don't know this, you can totally buy a house without credit, but you have to have the money and you have to have a lender who knows how to do a manual underwrite. And the same thing can happen with cars too. But a manual underwrite takes more time and most people don't know to ask for it. So this last time that we got a car, it was manually underwritten because we were using my credit, but we were putting my significant other on it as well to show a higher income, essentially, so that we could get a better rate on the loan. And because his credit is not the greatest, they manually underwrote it so that his credit wasn't taken into account on it, but his income was. So there are ways around the credit debacle. But again, you have to know them or you have to work with somebody who knows about them. And you have to understand it's going to take more time.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And everyone's situation and background is different. So just talking to somebody about it can be a really beneficial thing, just to see where you're at and if you can get help with your situation, or maybe interested in just trying something new that can make a difference or
Yep.
not, whatever.
Whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want to do. We'll just keep doing
Yeah,
what we want to do.
exactly. If you think this is complicated, business credit is even more complicated. So,
Yeah.
because that's a whole nother reporting agency.
Yes. So just figuring out your budget, being more conscious of your spending and laying everything out. Also working on your credit. It can make a lot of changes and open a lot of doors that you never thought possible until you do it.
And the nice thing is, if you've got your budget laid out already, you just put those bills on the credit card, and then you've already budgeted for the payment on the credit card. It's
Mm-hmm.
just making sure you pay that credit card off as soon as the statement is available.
Yep. And the
And
statement.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes letting it like, you don't have to pay it the day the statement is due. It'll tell you the statement, and you have like a month to pay it off. You can wait a couple weeks, just don't pay it past the due date. Sometimes waiting a couple weeks, not paying it right away will actually help your credit. I don't really understand why. I just know that it does because I watched it do it to my credit, and I was like, that makes no sense. So it's not one of those things of like, oh, I need to pay it off right now. But if you have the budget, again, you're already prepared to own a credit card. You just gotta be smart about it.
Yeah, we teach our students to run to deposit their income and walk to pay their bills.
Yeah.
Because that can, again, just using what cash you have and being smart with your money. We don't want to rush to pay our bills. Like, bills suck. So pay them just on the due date and we're good. And then use that time between the payment due date to analyze and move money to savings, or see what you can do to make your financial goals happen.
Yeah. It's awesome. I love it.
Thank you.
So see, budgeting sexy.
It is. If you need that hand holding or somebody to really help you through it, I am again a huge advocate for 101 Financial. I had somebody holding my hand who is still my instructor to this day. I can contact her anytime when I have questions or I'm feeling scared about what's going on in my life. And it's just great having support out there and a program that they only want success and to build, like we talked about earlier, that generational wealth and being smart with our money to make sure that future generations understand it better. Especially, we don't know where these times are headed. We're still in the middle of some craziness and things are expensive, and one job is not enough anymore to sustain, and it's gonna get harder, I think, before it gets better. So
Yeah.
do what we
I
can.
think if you're not building it for generational, like if you're like me and don't have kids, don't want kids, don't give a damn about leaving behind a legacy, think of it as retirement wealth.
Yeah, I'm considering kids or no kids, but I think just in general, that's why we love doing this podcast and making the videos we make, because it's stuff we're learning now that we wish we learned when we were younger. So we're hoping we can help these younger people be better, even better than us, essentially. But
I don't know where I would be today if I didn't have the foundation that I learned from my dad. I think I'd be a lot worse off.
And I have a lot of conversations with people because, my niche is first time home buyers, and it's rough. A lot of people my age group and younger just don't know what they're doing still, or just living paycheck to paycheck, and there's just no direction. And again, that lack of financial education here in the US especially. But there's help, and there's programs, and there's tools.
And there's us.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening.
Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Next week we are going to talk about life insurance. Woo! Because like it or not, it's sexy. It's very, very important for you to have when you are young, even though it doesn't seem like it would be. And we're going to talk about the difference between term life and whole life and why I believe term life is the best.
Can't wait to hear all about it. I just got my
It's
life
gonna be
insurance
fun.
through Rose.
You did.
And I was really excited about it, but had to get my personal finances in order before I could have the additional money for life insurance.
Yes, and I had to get educated because I originally thought that, um, whole life was the way to go, and I was wrong. I will tell you all about why I was wrong.
Yeah. Stay tuned for next week, guys. Thank you.
Stay sexy.